What's going on, everyone? The Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat played their first Summer League game together, with the Lakers absolutely routing the Miami Heat. I mean, the Lakers looked absolutely incredible. I mean, they had more excitement and just better game schemes and stuff like that than the Lakers did all regular season last year. It was actually really impressive. And there were definitely some real standouts and some real highlights that I want to break down some of the players and go over what I think and their potential going forward, as well as could they make the roster, things like that. And we'll start off with Scottie Pippen Jr. Now, Scottie Pippen Jr., he was one of the two guys on a two-way contract, and he looked great. I mean, he was solid. He was their leading scorer, I believe. He showed the defense. He showed the rebounding. He did a little bit of everything, and he was extremely solid for them. He's a guy that I can imagine and see coming back and forth to the Lakers and actually being a part of the roster. I don't know if he will be able to be on the roster full time this season, but depending on how things shape up, I could see him actually making the cut and just being a guy that gets some burn, gets some run time. I can imagine the Lakers bringing him up, calling him up on several occasions to kind of fill in roles, things like that. And he showed. I mean, he showed some quality shooting. He even hit like some crazy bank shot as the clock was winding down, stuff like that. He showed a lot of poise out there, and it was really good to see that from Scottie Pippen Jr., especially a guy that the Lakers committed a two-way deal to. You want to see that kind of promise from those kind of guys. Now, next up, Shaquille O'Neal's son, Shareef O'Neal. He definitely showed the athleticism. He didn't get a ton of burn, ton of game time, ton of touches, but he made his first basket as a Laker, which is always nice to see. He had some nice moments, some nice plays. He showed, again, that athleticism, that hope of what could be when it comes to Shareef O'Neal. He's a guy that I think could, get some development under the Lakers, build up, and maybe be a backup. I don't think he will ever be a starting center in this league. I mean, who knows? Depending on how he shapes up. It's always a possibility, but I think realistically, just given all of his health concerns and issues and things like that, he's a guy that can come in and just be a dominant force in, crunches. Here's 15, 20 minutes of play time throughout, and he could be a guy that could go get you, maybe a double-double in that time, things like that. So Shareef O'Neal, definitely looking forward to in this summer league and for the future. I'm really rooting for this guy. I really am. With all the stuff that went on behind the scenes with him and stuff, nothing's like a good feel-good story, especially a story with Shareef O'Neal, especially if he can do that with the Lakers. It's something I definitely would be excited for. But Tito Brown. So for those that don't know, he's been around for some time. He's 27 years old. He's played in like the Spanish league. He's played in the G League. He's played pretty much everywhere. He even played for the Lakers in a couple brief stretches, if I'm not mistaken. But he was fantastic in this game. I mean, he started the game off like 4 for 4 from the field, hit some tough shots, really showed that he could be a quality guy. He's a guy that I definitely want to look out for as Summer League progresses, and he's a guy I could see, potentially being and making a roster. He's a guy that was really solid for them throughout this game. And granted, it is just one game. Don't want to get too carried away, but he's tall. He's 6'8". He can play multiple positions. He can guard multiple positions. We saw a lot of the intangibles with him. He's a guy that I think, again, develop under the Laker banner, and maybe could be a guy that can make a spot in the future. It's something that I definitely, again, want to look forward to as things progress. But next up, Jhuff. This guy, man, 24 years old, 7'1", from Virginia, went undrafted, played in the G League. He's a guy that Lakers, again, I believe he played a couple games for them on the actual team, but he's also a part of the South Bay Lakers. He just put on a display today. I mean, seriously, this guy, I could see him being our third center off the bench this season. Like, seriously, athleticism. He can knock down the shots. Defensively, he was a monster in this game. Granted, it's just one game, but if what we saw translates well and he continues to play that way, this is a guy that I really believe the Lakers could pick up and actually put as a third big man, which I do think the Lakers still need. I still think the Lakers need that third big guy on the roster. Obviously, Anthony Davis is likely going to play a lot of minutes at center, things like that. But with health with him, he's probably going to miss 20-plus games. So maybe Huff is a guy that they call up. They, whenever Anthony Davis is hurt, he comes in to kind of fill that void as the other big man. I'm sure the Lakers will run small in stretches. I mean, even last year we saw LeBron play center. You have guys like Win and Gabriel. He can play center. Damian Jones, obviously, things like that. But I think that Jhuff, he deserves an honest look. I mean, he looked incredible for this team. He really did. He looked like a guy that could really be beneficial for the Lakers. Young, athletic, can run the floor, can spread the floor, can block shots. I mean, this is your typical, prototypical center in today's NBA. So I would really appreciate and just love to see the development of him and maybe him get some burn. At least give him a shot. What do we got to lose, the Lakers? We want to get younger. We want to get more athletic, which they did. So why not take a flyer on a guy like this, especially if he's, your 14, 15 guy on the bench. You can have him fluctuate back and forth. I think that could really work. And then our other two-way guy, Cole Sweiter. Now, he was a little hot and cold this game, but towards the end of the game, he really started heating up. He knocked down like several threes in a row, displayed, the size, the athleticism, 23 years old. He's 6'8". He is known for his, sniper-like shooting at times. He's the guy that, again, is on a two-way contract. He's a guy that I don't know. He looked a little raw to me, if I'm being honest. So I don't know if he makes the roster immediately. Granted, again, it's just one game. But he did show those flashes of why the Lakers were looking at him, why the Lakers want him, and why they signed him to a two-way deal. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. He can stay with people. He can knock down the outside shot, especially for his size. He's a guy that can play multiple positions. He's the guy you need going forward. And so I want to see him get developed. I want to see him build and grow with this Laker team. And then I'd love to see him, make a roster spot, maybe in the coming years. I think he's a guy that I wouldn't mind at all if they brought him up and let him just play in spots, and just kind of get that feel for the game, get that adjustment, things like that. Cole Sweiter had himself a game. But lastly, Max Christie. He is our draft pick. He was the one that we took with our 35th pick in the second round. Shooting-wise, he did not have a very good shooting game, but he rebounded incredibly well. We saw the closeouts. We saw the defense. We saw a lot of things. He had a couple nice shots. He did, score some points, but he was struggling a bit, especially early on. But he showed a lot of promise. He showed why the Lakers drafted him and why the Lakers, spent some money to go get him. So he's somebody that I think has a lot of potential. Young, 19 years old, so you expect him to be raw. You expect him to kind of, have to get a feel for things. He's a guy that I think if you develop him properly, can really be a staple on this team. His closeouts were really good. Like if you actually watch this game, however you felt about him, he closed out extremely well. He's got size at 6'6". He contested shots. You probably need him to bulk up a little bit. He comes from Michigan State, so he's got that pedigree in him. I just do. I really liked what I saw from all of the young guys, everybody on this roster. McClung, he's another guy that had a great game, but we got a lot of shine on him. He even was called up. He even won like the MVP last year in the G League, stuff like that. So I didn't want to get too heavily into him. Bass is another guy, Paris Bass, who was a Laker. Again, another guy that showed promise. He finished with like 15, 6, and 3. So he was a guy that showed that intangibles. He's another guy I could see the Lakers calling up. But I don't know. I think that the reason I wanted to highlight these guys, because these are the guys that are likely to make the roster or at least be a big part in the Lakers' future. But Paris Bass is another guy you really need to look out for, a guy that could really develop, got some size, things like that. Was knocking down outside shots. He, again, prototypical. But Jhuff was like the big highlight. Like he displayed some awesome plays. Like he was a highlight reel in this game in and of himself. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What did you think about today's Lakers first Summer League game? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think of all the players? They looked incredible. Like I said, they looked really good as a team. Like this looks like a team that could win the Summer League. But, it's one game. Don't want to get too high. Don't want to get too low. Things like that. We'll see how they continue and how they play moving forward. But what do you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know down in the comment section below. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.